How's it going? So, as you saw from my last video, I removed the M42 from the E30. That's going into a 2002 race car, not mine. Somebody bought it. Bunch of things led up to me deciding to do this swap. The turbo was giving me a lot of trouble with the idle control valve. I couldn't get into a tuner because of COVID. I planned on making a video of me driving it and some actual driving footage of how it was running and stuff. I even had a place picked out that I was going to film it, and I was going to have a friend come. Before I could get to that, the turbo seal went, and I kind of had to decide, if I wanted to invest even more time and money into fixing that, or if I wanted to proceed with this swap, which I really wanted to do, and I was going to do it in another E30 instead, but the timing was just kind of perfect, so this is where I'm at now. So as far as this build goes, I'm pretty far along. I think I've been working on it for 10 months now. I'm at the point right now where I'm going to hook up the wiring and put it on the ground, so most of these videos are just going to be me catching up right now. A lot of it I didn't really film. I wasn't really planning on putting anything online, but I guess there's a lot more interest in than I thought in how EV builds and swaps go. So I'll do my best to explain things. This is my first one, so I'm kind of learning as I go. So this first episode is just going to be me going over the batteries. They're two Chevy Volt batteries. I found them at local junkyards. Don't remember what I paid for them. I think I paid like $1,700 per pack, and each one's got 3 batteries in it. And I'm sure I'm going to go over that in the video. That's another thing. If I repeat myself, it's because a lot of these videos are taking weeks apart, just because of how I've been working on this and doing and redoing things. So I'll just get started. So one of the first things I bought was actually a 2013, I believe, Chevy Volt battery pack. The reason I bought this was because it came up at a scrapyard near me really cheap. I think I paid like $1,400 for it. Typically they're like $2,000, so I hopped on it. I'm not going to go too in depth on the battery pack itself. There's a great video by Weber Auto that I'll link below. That guy is full of knowledge, and he goes over every little thing. He pulls apart Tesla motors, pretty much anything related to an EV. He goes really in depth on, so I'll link that below definitely if you want to know more about these batteries. Disassembly is pretty straightforward. It's just a lot of 10mm nuts. It took me a little while to figure out how to get them off of there because they're almost glued down. They're stuck on with this really thick, sticky tape. So they take a little rocking to get off, or a good sized pry bar. But once you break them free, they're good to go. I knew that I wanted to fit 3 batteries in the engine bay, and I wasn't sure if it would work out or how I would fit the 3 in there. So what I did was I 3D scanned the engine bay, and I did this using Autodesk Recap, and you pay like $40 a month, and it uses photos. So I was able to capture everything, all the important bits, this bolt, so I'm able to see where I'm going to interfere with. And the problem is when you use Recap, it doesn't know the scale of anything because it's using photos, so it's just kind of guessing. So what I had to do was bring it into Fusion, and it's a STL file, and STL files are just triangles. So if you zoom in, you have nothing but triangles. It's all mathematically made. So it's not a solid or anything. But what I was able to do was fit 3 batteries this way and not interfere with it at all. So this is my first attempt at a case, and you can see it's made out of all sheet metal. So I was going to make it completely out of sheet metal and have it all laser cut and bent. It ended up costing way too much money to get it all laser cut and bent. So I came up with a second design, which I did in SolidWorks instead. So this is round 2, and what this is all made out of is angle iron. So this is just going to be steel that's all welded together, and then the sides are just aluminum, which I'm going to cut by hand. And that should fit the batteries perfectly. This is the battery box I just finished building. It's steel angle iron welded together, and then just aluminum sheet metal on top. I still have to make a lid for the front, but this will allow me to fit three batteries in the engine bay, which I also just repainted. And then I welded on this to the subframe, and the battery box is going to bolt to that. The battery box is done enough to put in the engine bay now. I had to extend the wires to relocate the slave BMSs, so they're on the sides, and then wired these 2 batteries together, and that's about it. Once I get it in the car, these 2 ports coming out here are gonna go straight to the trunk, and then in the engine bay there's going to be a 3rd battery sitting up front here, and these ports will all connect to that. You'll see how it loops together. All bolted in, dropped in the front battery tray, and that's attached here and there, and then it's bolted to the frame rails. I welded in these tabs and then bolted to that. Now I'm going to bolt it down there to that tab I welded on the subframe. So in order to fit this in here, what I'm doing is swapping out these for these angled ones I took off one of the smaller batteries, and then printed these just block off plates. So one end's going to be blocked off and the other end's going to have the angled ports. I didn't get it on video that well, but I replaced the coolant port blocks with aluminum ones. I didn't trust the 3D printed ones long term. And I'm partway through the cooling plumbing, and I used one of the stock pipes to come from that bottom one. That's going to come up to this T-fitting, got from Home Depot. And then a couple elbow pieces. The blue one came from the Volt pack. I could use another one, but this red one fits nicer. I just had that laying around. And then it just comes to these black heater pipes, which are just generic 3/4 inch piping. Okay, that was hell. It is done. It is in there. Aside from some nice cuts on my hand, everything seems pretty good. Now I'm going to connect the power of these batteries, and then should be done up front for a little while. I'm going to probably work on the high voltage box next and the trunk batteries. This is the stock volt battery floor, and the batteries lock into this plate here, and that's going to be the easiest way for me to secure the battery down. So I'm just going to drill out all of the spot welds and pry it off, and then use that. Now that I got this taken apart, what I'm going to do is put a small battery on it and then slide it up there so I can see where I'm going to have to bolt it down. I decided against the trunk mount, and instead I'm mounting the batteries in the back seat. And this mount bolts into the stock seatbelt places. It's made out of 1/4 inch steel, and then this one is also 1/4 inch steel bolted into the stock mounting point. And same thing with this one. It goes to a little piece of angle iron that bolts down. I haven't been filming most of this just because tight quarters, and I'm kind of just want to focus on getting everything done. So what I've done so far is I've drilled these for mounting, as well as I put these countersunk ones up front to anchor the front of it. Actually super happy with how this came out. What I'm gonna do is bend a piece of flat bar stock. I'm gonna come up and over and mount back there, and that'll kind of help secure these in case of an accident. They're bolted down pretty well, but I'd still like to have some extra straps over them. And then I'm going to build a deck that goes over the front and the top, and that's going to be carpeted, so it'll look normal-ish. It'll match the rear partial shelf. As you can see, it is a very tight fit.